You are listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you are born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin at OneTrueSelf.com, ONETrueSelf.com, and you're listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio, where you can experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. I'm very happy to be here today with my friend Penelope Jean Hayes. We're talking about the earth, all of the changes that are going on, and how you can help the earth and yourself through specific spiritual techniques. And we really need everyone to focus on this and everyone to help. And the amazing thing about it is it helps your life as well. So we'll share this during the next hour, and you can learn more about changing your life and helping the earth. So let me tell you about our guest. Penelope Jean Hayes is the foremost leader in the field of contagious and osmotic energy, known as virology, and she has appeared on television hundreds of times as an expert guest, including for Dr. Phil, ABC News, and internationally, she founded the Viral Energy Institute for personal, interpersonal, and planetary wellness located in Naples, Florida, where she studies global viral contemplation for unity, viral energy, masses and their effects, energy manifestation of the quantum field, elevating to higher levels of consciousness, and the merging of science and metaphysics. Penelope taps into spiritual wisdom through a process she calls osmotic energy. She is also the author of the best-selling books, The Magic of Viral Energy and Do Unto Earth. Currently, she's co-hosting a new series for television called Conspiracy Detectives. So welcome, Penelope. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Hi, Julia. Always great to talk with you.
It's always a lively conversation.
It is.
So let's start with your book, Do Unto Earth. For our listeners, I started reading this one night, and I think I went to bed about 2 because such fascinating information, and it made me think about so many things that I think many of us perceive on an inner level, but maybe we don't think about externally. The information in this book really helps you think about how it's working in our world. So she has topics that go from the Bermuda Triangle, the pyramids, and all sorts of mysteries about the earth. And Penelope, you communicated with the divine wisdom source when you were introduced to Pax, and I believe that she's like a spirit of the earth or a loving, protective spirit of our planet. And the intuitive Carol organs, and you got some amazing answers. So tell our readers how the book came about and how you met the spirit.
Sure. Thanks, Julia. So my main focus is viral energy. So studying how energy is contagious, and that's on a personal level and interpersonal level, but also planetary. So between populations on the Earth, communication, this extrapolates into communication techniques, telepathic communication, as you know, between animals and humans and humans from different sides of the world. So I like to study the implications of that contagious energy, viral energy. And that was what came about with my first book, which is titled The Magic of Viral Energy. And as you said in the introduction, then I founded the Viral Energy Institute. So the next book in what was kind of thought of as a series for me was to look at this viral energy from what was the personal and interpersonal level on in the book The Magic of Viral Energy. That book is wonderful for helping to advance your own life. And it has a lot of really hands-on advice for people. So what I wanted to do was springboard that into the next book, which I knew would be titled Do Unto Earth. So that's with a U, Do Unto Earth. And I didn't really know where the information would come from, but I knew that it was taking the viral energy wisdom and applying it to a larger scale, a planetary scale. So, as these things often happened, I probably attracted what that answer was in terms of where the information would come from. And I had been connected with an intuitive, and her name is Carol Serene Borgens, as you mentioned. And she and I had been talking, and I had gone to her for some information, and she channeled a little bit about things that I was working on. We then got together in British Columbia, where she lives, and one thing led to the next. And we thought, you know what, let's start tapping into the channeling process for the Viral Energy Institute and this planetary healing that I've been working on for many years. And let's see what spirit, or some people call it the universe, the collective. Let's see what that collective wisdom source has to say about our environmental situation and see where that goes. So we started that process, and very shortly into it, we realized, you know what, this is a book. It was just, it was flowing so fast. And this book, I'll just hold it up for those who are watching rather than only listening. Well, you can't really see it too well. This book is 445 pages long. So the information was just flowing, and that's really how it started.
It is a great book. I really and truly could not put it down. It's like at first I was like, this is interesting. And then I'm like, oh, the information in this is incredible. But let me regress for just a moment. I think when we're saying that there's viral energy, people may be thinking that that's negative energy, but it's also the positive collective, like when you feel God or the universe or a wolf. It's this amazing wave of connection. And that's really more of the level that we're working on today and that you worked on with your
Oh,
book.
absolutely. And thanks for clarifying that. So, viral energy, this work that I've been doing, long precedes the current virus, the global pandemic. And so the term is very appropriate in that the good, the bad, and the ugly are all contagious, they're all viral. And so the term is really appropriate. And yes, the negative can be contagious, but the positive is what we focus on. And that really is the key of the message today, as you said.
It really is. And so I just want to talk about one thing that's amazing to me. When I first met the wolves, I asked how we came to this planet. And I could see this most amazing wave of light, probably from another galaxy. And I could feel it take us into form, and it was very harmonious. I would say that it aligned with the idea of a Garden of Eden. Well, this was something amazing about your book. Pat said the same thing.
Very early on. So was given the liberty to sort of just ask whatever I wanted. And um, my focus was on the environment and environmental healing, and looking at it from kind of an out of the box way to look at our environmental situation. We have a lot of people working on the environment right now. It's become a very popular topic, which is good. But what I wanted to do was find out, what do we not know that the universal wisdom knows that we just simply haven't asked? And so I was given by the Spirit Messenger packs sort of free range to ask anything. And one of the first questions that came to my mind was that we're polluting this planet with impunity. We seem so out of place on this planet Earth. And you hear people say often, oh, we're the aliens to this planet. We must be alien to this planet because look at how we just don't fit in. We're the only animal, the only species that really doesn't fit in with the harmonious balance of Mother Earth and all of the other plants and animals. And so this was my question. And I really wasn't expecting the answer, Julia. I really, the question was just a simple question that a lot of people ask, are we alien to this planet? And the answer came back, yes. That you are indeed from light years away was the exact quote from the messenger Pax. And in Pax, by the way, is a collective, refers to themselves as they rather than he or she. Some people experience the energy as male, some people experience it as female, but obviously there's no gender attached. And Pax referred to themselves to me when I asked in detail, who are you? Really needed to dig into this. It's a they. And so it's a collective wisdom source, a loving, very benevolent, loving energy in the universe. And the answer was that you came from light years away, from many different planets, in fact, which was also surprising. So Pax said to look to the way your different peoples look, your different races have different characteristics. And visually, we can see differences, and that these are indicative of different planets, different planets and different galaxies. And that one of the real points of life is to spread wisdom across the universe. And that is what our ancestors did. They were on a mission to spread wisdom and life and creation across the universe. And this planet was a very special planet that we kind of coined in the book Due Unto Earth, the Planet Earth Project, because what I was told is that this planet was chosen to put a bunch of different people groups together and to see how their civilization develops. And so I said to Pax, what is it about our civilization that, would be interesting? And he said, look at the word, well, we say he because Carol, the channeler, actually refers to Pax as a he. That's how she feels it. But Pax said, to look at the derivative of that word, civil, and that we are meant to be civil towards one another, and that this project was to see if we could develop a loving, harmonious way of being. And we are still struggling with that immensely.
I really feel that we came in a wave of harmony. Like that was what the wolves showed me, and that we had this incredible power to create, to visualize things and to see them come into form. And over time, people became somewhat petty or more dense, and we separated ourselves from that. But they really thought that we were here to create, that we had just sort of forgotten our ability.
More dense is a very good way of describing it. That density, that physicality can bog us down. And I think that you're exactly accurate. I think that we can imagine a utopian state very early on, and that we have gone in a direction that is, we've, instead of evolved, we've devolved in many, many ways.
Definitely. Hopefully we're coming back up into awakening. But one thing that's interesting to me is that right now, unless you're meditating or you're really aligned with your inner self, you have to make an effort to feel the harmony, which is very odd to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're getting inundated in the news and information about our planet and information about the environment. And I think that striking that balance is what is going to be our saving grace. We need to know what's going on. And the more that I knew what was going on, and this is outside of the book Due Unto Earth, just in educating myself on the environment and what our real situation is. And I have an inside source actually within the Department of Defense that has provided me with a lot of information regarding what some people in the know actually know about climate change. And so looking at the data, it is scary. It truly is scary. And there is very limited time before we reach that tipping point, that point of too late. Pax told me that. He said 8 to 12 years. And this was a year ago, more than a year ago. And then other information that I've received from these other sources have said even shorter, significantly shorter, until we reach that point of no return for the health and well-being. Yes.
Let's hold that thought and go to break, and we'll come back and talk about some of the solutions and some of the mysteries on Earth. Today we're talking with Penelope Jean Hayes, and when we come back, we'll go into how we can use our abilities as a creator through visualization, through manifestation, and through our inner self to make changes that will help ourselves and the earth. So let's go to break now. Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin at OneTrueSelf.com, ONETrueSelf.com, and you're listening to the Power of Inspiration Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio, where you can experience a higher vibration and new state of mind. We have such a special guest and show today. I'm with Penelope Jean Hayes, and we're talking about how we can help the planet, how we can come together as a group of people with a higher collective and make the kinds of changes and create the kind of harmony that we really want. So stay with us and learn more. So Penelope, I'm going to ask you just to jump in and start telling us about what we can do to help you.
Well, there is a lot that we can do. And I believe that we cause the problem. I believe in terms of climate change that we're talking about anthropogenic climate change. So that means that, all of us, we're part of creating the problem in little tiny ways, each individual. And so each individual can be part of that solution too. Now, Julia, I've looked at this from 1,000 feet up and from like right on top of it. And it's a mind-boggling issue. It is complex. And, we do hear a lot lately about what we can do, and we know what the basics are. So we won't be redundant going over, some of the things about the plastics that are ending up in our ocean, and our choices, our consumer choices are driving that industry. Even our carpet is made out of plastic. So we need to be more aware. Microplastics that end up in the laundry, our clothes made out of polyester. So those are the obvious things. But what we can do, again, after looking at this on every different way that you can approach it, I think that we really need to look at our ability, our telepathic ability to communicate with other people around the world, to reach out to them virally with our thoughts. I've learned that telepathic communication is just a thought process. And through that thought process, we actually can change molecules. And you and I have talked about this several times off air, just in our personal conversations, and that we both have that belief, looking at it from a quantum mechanics point of view, that we really need to focus our attention on the good. Because there's a lot of talk right now about, what's going wrong, and we have a lot of people striking for climate, but we do have to take that positive action. We have to do different, each one of us, in our personal choices, our consumer choices. But on top of that, we can do what I call a global viral contemplation. And global viral contemplation is coming together in our thoughts, sending out light energy thoughts to start to change those molecules. You and I had a conversation recently about how molecules, actually heat, can be changed. And maybe you actually want to talk about that, and we'll kind of ping pong off each other, because you said something to me recently too. And I was saying to you that, we've got the Arctic ice is melting, and this is a real quandary. And I'll get back to my thoughts on that. But what was it that you told me on the phone that day regarding changing molecules with the heat?
Okay, just very basic science, and we all know this, but then I'm going to take it to a deeper level. When molecules are warm, they bounce around and they fill up the room. When they're cold, they're dense and they sink down to the bottom. Now, I lived in a cabin and the primary source of heat was wood. And I found that if I started seeing the molecules bounce around in my mind, the fire would take off in the stove and the room would heat up very quickly. If I didn't do that, it took longer. So based on that, one of the interesting things I found is, say we're doing a class, so we're talking right now. If we close our eyes and we think about light, or we think about pink light or love, the molecules immediately speed up. So higher states of being activate molecules. When the molecules are activated, then we move into your view of viral energy. They go out to everyone.
Exactly. And then it becomes contagious. It's that domino effect. So each one of us has that ability. So even if you think you're too old to make change, maybe physically you're not as capable as the next person you think, and you think that that is a limitation. If you don't have a lot of money to make change, maybe you're not in a position of power to make change. Each one of us, no matter where we are, no matter what our abilities and talents are, each one of us can affect change through our thoughts. And so, right now, we're hearing so much about the climate crisis, and it is a crisis. But it is our job and duty to turn that energy around, to lighten that energy, to cause that energy to be vibrating more purely, and that will be contagious. And, we can do it. There's in the book, Do Unto Earth, Pax gives an example of clearing clouds. And there's been a lot of books written, I've come to find out since, a lot of books written about clearing clouds. This was the first time I heard of it. And so he had said, or they had said, that to look at the clouds and to then, just acknowledge where they are. Okay, there's a cloud. And then to visualize that cloud start to dissipate and break apart. And as you do that, you'll see the clouds start to break apart. And so I tried it. That very next, right after we wrote that part of the book, that very next weekend, my husband and I went to the beach and we're lying there on a raft, and I'm looking up and there's a big, puffy, beautiful cotton ball type cloud, very together. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try this. And sure enough, that cloud dissipated. That's me affecting a cloud. Now, you may not believe that that's true, but just try it for yourself. And that same theory applies to many things, whether that's the heating of the planet, the melting of polar ice. We can affect change. One person can affect change, and that will have a domino effect, but many people coming together, a global contemplation for good, can do even more.
And I'm going to say something from a sort of different angle, which is I think all of us have had something in our lives at least once that felt like such a crucial thing, something that had to change. And you pray and you put all of your intent and all of your energy on it. And you can feel this answering force. You can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it Pax, these groups of beings who protect the earth and other planets. But a force comes in and you can feel the quantum shift. Now, I had a lot of this happen in my life, but what was interesting is when I started hanging out with the wolves, they're like, well, it's so much easier if you would just visualize.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that we're taught in church and many other ways is to just send a motion or send the request for an answer. But if we put the two together, the universe will answer us. And I think this is something you're saying, that we're beyond the point of just doing ordinary, normal things.
Mm-hmm.
We put our consciousness into a miracle space.
And why not at this point? It's going to take all hands on deck. So if we're sitting back going like, this is such a crisis, oh my goodness, look at the recent IPCC reports. We have 3 years left before vast coastal flooding. What are we going to do? Well, there's a number of things we can do, and this is one of them. And it might just be the greatest of all. And we might just discover what our true power is. And wouldn't that be something? Because that is the next evolution of humanity. This is the direction that we're meant to go in. This is the direction that advanced civilizations have already mastered. And that is these abilities of our mind, and specifically visualization. And I think a lot of people don't understand the word visualization. I think that, there was a lot of, cult popularity around the concept of visualization when the movie The Secret came out, the book and The Secret, which are fabulous. But I think a lot of people don't understand really how to put that into practice. And so they think it's great. They got their vision board, but maybe they're not really seeing change in their life. And you and I are here to tell them, some extra tools that you can add to that, beyond just the vision board. There's a lot more that you can do. And I know you have some techniques, and I'll share mine as well.
Sure. Like the first thing that I do to make sure I'm on point is to feel my heart chakra, to feel love, because that's where the universe talks to me. I like to have beautiful images. So like when we're talking about the earth, I'm seeing continents, I'm seeing clean oceans, I'm seeing fogs, mist, I'm smelling clean air. I'm feeling what it would be like if all those things were in harmony. And that seems to include the wind and wind patterns and also our relationship with the moon. That's just what's popping up. But I'm seeing it as early morning and everything feels wonderful to me. And it's more beautiful than anything I could ever imagine on my own.
This is great. And so you're putting yourself into that visualization. So more than just, clipping out pictures, which would be a typical kind of vision board, it's the intention, it's the feeling that it creates, and it's putting yourself into that image. So one of the techniques I like and that we do here at the Institute, and we do this for, personal development issues like somebody wants a more fulfilling career, or whatever those issues are with the kind of goal list that someone has personally. We do that a lot with that, and you can also do it with the planet and the wellness of the planet, and that is vectoring. So vectoring in the dream. So in this case, the dream is a healthy planet, a planet at the right temperature, a healthy temperature for the planet, perhaps the ceasing of the heating of the planet through holes in the ozone, through the warming that is going on, trapping, literally it's a greenhouse effect, quite literally. Think of if there was a sheet of plastic at the Arctic, on top of the Arctic, trapping all that heat in, and it can't go out because we filled the atmosphere with all this stuff that's not letting that heat, go out. So we're trapping it back down. This is now, melting the polar ice caps. And you know why that's so important? Because this is the refrigerator for the whole planet. If that goes, it all goes. And so when they say, this could happen, vast global flooding, coastal flooding in 3 years' time. The reason that would happen so fast is because if that block of ice, the polar ice cap melts, it happens very quickly and you can't get it back. If it melts, it churns out, it's up there in the Beaufort Strait, and it actually turns like a washing machine. That's just the natural direction of those currents. What's been happening is as it melts, it pieces out into little ice cube chips. And as that washing machine churns and churns in the Beaufort Sea, it's pushing it out like flushing a toilet right over the top of Greenland through the Fram Strait and then down. And it's lost to the Atlantic forever. Warmer temperatures, now it's down and it melts and then it's lost forever. So why that is so important now, talking back about visualization and about the technique that I like to use, which is the vectoring technique, is to vector yourself into that image. So you created a beautiful visualization for us. And now let's add to that the visualization of that polar ice cap remaining intact. It's nice, one tight, solid block, and we're going to visualize that. So we vector that in. Have you heard of the term vectoring? It's used in aviation. So if you're vectoring in, you're going to see yourself. Here you are in the airplane, the jet, and you're also seeing your destination. So through coordinates, you're literally vectoring yourself from here to there. So when you're looking at a dream, I want this in my life, or I want, healthy planet, you have to vector yourself from where you are to where you want to be. And so that visualization now is in frames like a movie reel. So it's not just the end result. You're going to vector yourself there, or vector the planet there. Let's show Mother Earth how it's done. Through these visualizations, these individual frames on the reel. We're here, we need to be here. Let's visualize this, next step, boom, here we are. And then add the emotion behind it. How does it feel as we're getting healthier?
I always say that there's a feeling of relief associated with manifestation. Sometimes I think I'm the only person who says that, but here's the truth. When a problem is gone, you feel peaceful, you feel harmonious, and you feel a sense of relief. So that's important. And Penelope and I will be working on keeping the refrigerator going. Now she's using a very logical progression. I'm more intuitive and pop around. So like if I think about where we need ice, where things need to be cool, I'll just pop in and imagine that it's getting colder. I'm seeing, maybe a round thermometer that's going down. So there are lots of ways of working with it. I'll give an easy explanation of this. If you live where I live, you can go for a long ride in the mountains and there will be no gas stations. So if you suddenly notice that you're getting really low on gas, it's probably really smart to see the needle going back toward full for a while. And usually that will take you wherever you need to go. You simply will not run out of gas because you're making the car run in a different way, or the universe is coming in and helping you.
I love that, and I really encourage people to try these things when you're in a safe space to attempt the gas tank test. Do that, and also dissolving a cloud. Try that, but you'll start to see what your own power is. Now, Julia, you're a very powerful manifester. You know, we've been at this for a long time, so you can go right to it, and I love that. And then there's people that have a really hard time imagining that end result to be true for them. So if it's a personal goal and it's the dream job or dream partner in life or whatever that is, maybe they've been so beat down they can't believe it is what it is. And I've always thought that the real trick to manifesting is it's clearly believing this story you've told yourself or this visualization you've given yourself, because it sounds great, but you know what, I don't really know if I could do that. I don't really know if I can make a change globally or environmentally. And that's where the vectoring could come in. So that would be a technique, a tool for people who have a really hard time believing that they can affect change in this way. So just try it in increments and see how that works for you.
And it's easier to believe at a higher vibration.
Yes.
Ever puts you at a higher vibration. If it's nature, if it's listening to sounds, if it's talking to someone you love, if it's finding something that gives you joy in life, whatever it is, try to do more of that because it helps. And I do want to point out, Penelope and I talked before, I guess a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, before we decided to do this interview. And all throughout her book, Pax is saying that we should live more like Native Americans. Well, we didn't even talk about this, but the day after we talked, a great deal of land was gifted to a tribe of Native Americans. So that's just what two types of consciousness can bring together. And neither of us was even trying to manifest that, but I think we caught that vibration that's in the book.
And it makes me think too that if you buy you buy a BMW, you're seeing BMWs everywhere on the street. So when you're in that space, you're talking about something, it's on your mind, even if you're not the one that manifested it, you're seeing it, it ends up in your path. So wouldn't it be a better world if we all have these better experiences, lighter opportunities for ourselves and others fall into our path? Because you know what it is? We're in the path of those things. So it's not that it lands in our path because we happen to be thinking about it, but we're now suddenly on that path. So now this is something that I talk about a lot in my viral energy work. And this is, you touched on something that is absolutely imperative for us to know as we visualize, and that is that what we surround ourselves with will affect our frequency. So that's the viral energy. So we know that somebody walks into the room in a bad mood, that can be contagious to all the people in the room. We've experienced that before. Or somebody's in a really good mood and that joy is just, infectious, and they have a smile that now you're smiling too because that person's just so happy. So we know those things for ourselves, and that's how this works too. So if you are surrounding yourself with all of negativity, or you have friends that are really negative, they're vibrating at very low frequencies, these are the things that they focus on in their life, well, that is contagious. So now it has bogged you down. So instead of being on that, so I call them, they're actually, in the magic of viral energy, we talk about 7 layers of these frequencies that we've been able to determine. And those lower vibrations, of course, are at the bottom. And think of that as like a layer cake going up vertically. So these are what they call the flow. So you hear people say, you got to be in the flow, or oh, I'm really in the flow. Well, what is the flow, or what flow are you in? Are you in the flow that's down here, like this layer at the bottom of that cake? That's like, all the negative experiences, the car wrecks, the fights with friends, or are you in one of these upper flows, where just magically all of these wonderful things are falling in your path and you're only hearing about good news? Well, the reason why is because all of the negative things are just not in your flow. So yes, we need to elevate ourselves. And it is critically important that we mind what we're surrounding ourselves with, that we get out into nature that's already just has the most beautiful, perfect frequency without even trying. And that's why we want to be around nature. So the more we can do those things, we will virally take on that perfect frequency of nature, to take on the frequencies of those around us that are more enlightened, and we will start experiencing a better life and a better world.
And one way to tell if you're in that flow is by your flow of synchronicities. Because after we had this conversation, I was thinking deeply about Native Americans. I received nothing but positive information on my feed, on Facebook, on the different news places that I looked at. So that's what was where my consciousness was during that time, was allowing that information to come in. So there is a good news broadcast all the time, but it's up here. It's more in the unseen and unheard world. And when you attune to it, it will make itself known in your physical world. So if you see anything positive, go ahead and read it. Think about it, bring it in and say, oh, a wonderful synchronicity. This is great.
And then that's contagious to the people around you. So now you're a beacon of light. And just imagine if everybody did that. If everybody did that, everybody starts experiencing those things. And those are the things we really want to experience and be. And it dissipates the negative, it dissipates the more dense frequencies as we are now resonating in this upper flow. So it's really, there are tangible benefits from this. This is not just, some, crazy idea. And again, I would just encourage people to try it.
Definitely. So just for fun, I know that Pat shared some insights about future possibilities with technology that are positive. What might some of those things be?
Oh, yeah. So in the book, Do Unto Earth, I just asked every question I ever had about space and aliens. And, I was really also focused on technologies that could free us from our dependence on fossil fuels. And so there was a lot of information that I would say in terms of the fuel. Pax had given more of like breadcrumbs. So it was, look to fusion and fission, and hydrogen was mentioned. And I believe that alien vehicles are even getting some of their power from our water. We've seen images, videos of these craft diving into the ocean without making a ripple or a wave. I would imagine they have a force field bubble around them. And so it was more breadcrumbs. And the reason why was that if we were given the technology, we wouldn't know how to use it. And the same technology that could save us from fossil fuel use is the exact same technology that could, blow up the earth. And so we have to go into this with the consciousness of right action. And we're not doing that very well right now. A lot of our world leaders are not coming from that intention. And so that's where you imagine if you're PAX, you're this collective in the universe, and you're like, yeah, these people aren't ready for that yet. But PAX did give me a lot of really fun, cool, fun information just about our history. So we talked about the pyramids, we talked about Amelia Earhart and the Bermuda Triangle, we talked about Stonehenge. So where would you like to go?
Oh, I think everyone wants to know a little bit about the Bermuda Triangle. That explanation was so good.
So this was so fascinating. So I had wanted to know, obviously what's going on with the Bermuda Triangle. Why have we experienced all of these navigational anomalies, whether it's a plane, a ship? And so Pax said that deep under the subterranean floor, so under the water and under the floor of the ocean, is an alien base, an alien charging base that was used to charge their vehicles. Pax says that it's not in use at the moment, but it will be again. Now, listen to this, Julia. This was mind blowing because that was just fun. And we had a fun conversation. And please do get the book Do Unto Earth, because it's 445 pages. There's a lot more than we can cover, and it's super fascinating. But what was really cool is that after I wrote the book, and that was long out and became a #1 bestseller on Amazon, by the way. I made contact, as I briefly mentioned earlier, with someone deep within the Department of Defense in our US government, someone in the know in one of these, deep underground programs that deals with aliens, alien contact, environmental issues, which are very much tied. We'll have to touch on that. I mean, they could not be two topics more tied, by the way, relevant to each other. And this individual told me that there was an alien base underneath the Bermuda Triangle. And this person, really did not have any insight about the, 12 books that I've written, and this book in particular, Due Unto Earth. This individual really was not all that interested in what a messenger from the universe had also told me. They are dealing in the individual in the government dealing more in hard facts, and had told me that there is uh, ET base under the Bermuda Triangle. Actually tipped me off to information, didn't overtly, wasn't perhaps permitted to overtly make it, say it that way, but tipped me off to that this indeed is the case. And so I was like, wow, this is, pretty mind blowing to get that type of confirmation on something like that. Fascinating.
Yeah, that's amazing. And there's so many amazing, interesting things in this book. You really can't imagine how many great things there are. I mean, I've read it and I'm going to read it again, and you won't hear me say that a lot, but particularly with a long book. So we've been talking about the earth, how you can change your consciousness so you grow, so the earth heals, so everything around us changes. And with Penelope Jean Hayes, and she's sharing insights from her wonderful book, Due Unto Earth. So we'll go into this a little more. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment. Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin at OneTrueSelf.com, ONETrueSelf.com. You're listening to The Power of Inspiration Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. My special guest is Penelope Jean Hayes. We're talking about her book, Due Unto Earth, which ranges from aliens to the Bermuda Triangle to what's going on in our environment right now and how we can change ourselves and change the world. So Penelope, you were going to tell us a little bit about the agenda of aliens, I think.
Sure. So I had mentioned that the alien agenda is absolutely tied with our environmental crisis. And so we have witnessed a ramping up of these UFO sightings. And even our government, it's been very much in the news. The whole report was recently released. I believe that was in June, of looking into these UFO sightings. And so it's been ramping up in recent years, and that's simultaneous to our environmental crisis ramping up. So all of the data that I've collected, everything that I've heard from PACs and other sources within our government, is that there's not an alien threat. And any narrative to say that there is an alien threat is spun by people in governments that would have an interest, a vested interest in kind of smearing the name of aliens. But when you just look at the data, um, and we're going to keep abductions aside because that might be a personal thing for some people, but most of those were actually government sponsored abductions, again, to create this narrative of aliens that are um, somehow wanting to harm us. But when you just look at the data, aliens with their advanced technology, they've obviously come from, light years away, other planets and galaxies. With that technology, they could have wiped us off the face of the universe a very long time ago, had they wanted to, if that was their intention. So just looking at what we do know, they like to kind of stay quiet. They're trying to send us a message. They, by the way, have met with some of our government officials. It was President Eisenhower that they met with, that I had heard about, and not another president since. They have had the same message all along: change your ways. What you are doing with the environment, also synonymous with warring among your people, that this attitude is going to be the fall of humankind, not the fall of planet Earth, because she will heal herself. If we were to be gone, the planet could heal herself, but that we need to really look at our own survival. and what we're doing that is playing into our own demise. So they want us to wake up to that. They want us to change our ways, because what we do not only affects us. And let's say that they're, I'd like to think of aliens, most species of aliens, as benevolent, but maybe they're not all benevolent. Maybe some are just benign, which is to say that they don't want to hurt us, but maybe they don't even necessarily want to help us all that much, but just to observe. Um, and let's say that is the case, that maybe they are just observing, standing back. They're not going to let us get to the point of ruining this planet through, say, like a nuclear event. They're not going to let us go that far. And that's what they're watching. That's what they're watching. But, they really do want us to wake up, and to wake up to what we're doing to planet Earth, because it sends ripples through the universe. What we do here not only affects us, but now we're looking to go into space, weaponize space. We're dropping our space junk in space. And all of these things are just not acceptable on the interstellar level.
I think this question is coming up. We've talked about some of the data, which is important. Neither of us just believe that you should go out and visualize just anything. We think that you need to know what's involved in a situation and what the energies are. But from there, you can do great things with visualization. So I wanted to ask you, let's just say we have 5,000 people, we're pretty high vibes, that are seeing a great visual every day. How might that change things or turn it around?
Again, that is, it's exponential. So 5,000 through a viral effect, now that could be, 500,000. And those 500,000 could then become 5 million. So it goes like that exponentially. And so if you think of yourself as this, you're not a singular event. You are an energy being, but you're not just contained within yourself, this skin. You have, you might call it an aura, but you have this energy field around you. And so we're not contained within this skin and bones that we see here, but that we have a presence energetically. And that presence energetically just is something that is, it's contagious. It's contagious like dropping. So I like to use the analogy. Let's say you have a cold swimming pool, and you take like a hot bag of, like, maybe a hot water balloon, and the water inside this balloon is hot, and you drop that into the cold swimming pool. So what will happen is, through the osmotic effect, the temperature will become homeostasis. The temperature inside the balloon will take on the temperature of the colder swimming pool, because it's the larger body. So the larger energy always wins. So when we go out, our little old selves go out for a walk in nature, the larger energy, more powerful is actually a better term to think of this, the more powerful energy will win. And so we start to take on that energy of nature. So the more people do this, that will spread. And then we get to a tipping point where it's the, the more tangible, more powerful, more concentrated energy is the light energy.
I agree. And I can feel that some people are going to think, well, we have all these huge companies that control everything and you can't fight them, you can't change them. But I think deep down, all of us know that there's a force that's bigger than all of those things. And if we align with that force, matter becomes more plastic or more malleable because it has more light. And at that point, I think almost anything can change. What's your belief on that?
I think that we have made a lot of change. You look at a number of industries, when something became popular in the public, those industries, they just want to make money, right? So they pivot very quickly. So, I remember it was kind of like, it seemed like one day plastic bags were not cool anymore at the grocery store. It just seemed like it happened overnight. And all of a sudden, this popular culture thing kind of took over. And now, plastic bags are not popular. So bring your own bag or ask for the paper bag in a pinch. And stores, all these grocery stores, they pivoted overnight. That's one example. So the consumer will always drive these industries because we're the ones buying them. So if we come together collectively, and similar thing with the straws, the plastic straws. I can't find a plastic straw anymore in my town. We live on the coast. These straws end up in the ocean. We have raised our consciousness as a society, as a community group, that we're just not going to do that. And guess what? Every bar and restaurant has a paper straw for you. I even pack my own. I bring a stainless steel or a bamboo straw in my purse. And it makes me feel good. People around me will ask, hey, what's that? You brought your own straw. So these things we have control over and we don't even know it. And I believe that there is a power of one. And one person, I mean, I have changed the thought process and raised consciousness with a lot of people in my own life. I have relatives asking me all the time, I'm vegan. I have people asking me all the time, like, that seems like such a stretch for them. But the more they're around it, the more they're like, yeah, this makes sense. I might want to try that too.
I agree. And whatever vibration you're in, you are putting out to other people. And I think that opens us up to a force that's so large. I mean, you evidently were capable of talking to an earth spirit about all these different things. It's such a wide, broad set of topics that is fascinating to me. And what was the answer? Visualize.
Exactly. Absolutely. And, we're a little bit lazy with visualization, most of us. So, we kind of know it. We've heard it before. It's been out there for quite a long time, visualization, and there's many different modalities, and you can create your own ways of doing that. But we as a people are not here to survive. We're here to create. And this is how we create, through visualization, and we create our future. And one of the things I love that you say, and you can correct me on the exact, I'm paraphrasing, but one of the things I love that you say is that, we create our life one visualization at a time. All of life is created that way. And think about that. Think about the power that we are holding right now in our mind that for many people is completely dormant and unused. And just think about the transformation you can make in 6 months.
And everybody does this one. Where are your car keys? You just had an image. You can't help it. All of your life, you move from one image to another. And it's why the wolf said, you're creators and you came here to create. So Penelope, it has been so much fun talking to you. Would you please share your website, upcoming events, and tell people how they can find you?
Absolutely. So the website is just my name. It's PenelopeJeanHayes.com. And from there, you'll find a bunch of fun things. So I do consultations with people on a one-on-one basis. We can do that through Zoom, through telephone call. And I also have founded the Viral Energy Institute, which is a physical location here in Naples, Florida, where I do retreats, day retreats, weekend retreats, and you can come yourself as a couple, join a group, and we do these great retreats for people to really elevate their life in many, many ways. And it's fun. So PenelopeJeanHayes.com, and that will kind of get you to a lot of places.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So everyone who's listening, you can sign up for my newsletter and learn more. My website is OneTrueSelf, ONETrueSelf.com. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Power of Inspiration Awakening show, where you can experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. Please join me on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month at 12 noon Eastern, 11 Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you so much for being with me. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin to master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Join us next time as Julia takes us deeper into the memory of the moments of light where transcendence and enlightenment emerge. The memory of the jewel of consciousness is always lived within you to tap into waves of energy and create huge changes by imagining the beauty of the vision and desires that are hidden in the heart. Learn to find your way back to nature, beauty, and your own heart, which holds the secrets of your existence and future. To discover more about Julia's adventures, animal communication, and the teachings she brings to every show, visit OneTrueSelf.com. That's OneTrueSelf.com. That's ONE, TrueSelf.com.